Worship is giving back to God what he first gave to us. Worship is giving back to him the song he first sang into us. My friend Graham Cook puts it this way. He says, you know, when my kids wanted to buy me a gift for Christmas, they would come and they would say, hey, Dad, can I have 20 bucks? And they would take his $20 and buy him a gift for Christmas and bring it back and give it to him. That's what worship is. We're giving back to him what he first gave to us. When I found out that my wife was pregnant with our first child, I remember that first moment when you find out, do his little test, and it reads positive that we're going to have a little baby. And from that first moment, I just put my hand on her belly and started praying over this little one that was growing inside of her. And then I started singing over him. And we would, as her belly got bigger, I used to love after worship services, I'd be like, was he moving when we were singing tonight? She's like, yeah, especially during that one prophetic song, you know. He was just kicking my belly. I thought he was just going to poke one of his feet out of my belly. And I remember the moment when he was born. And I got to have him in the hallway. My wife was getting some rest, and it was just me and him out in the hallway. He's just like 10 minutes old, you know. And I'm holding him in the hallway. And I look into his eyes, and I start singing. And it was like his little face was looking into mine. He couldn't speak in words yet, but his spirit was saying, there's my father. I've known your voice my whole life. You've been singing over me since I began. And just those endless nights you have as a parent, you know, I couldn't wait for those. I know that sounds strange, but I couldn't wait for those nights when it could just be me and him, me singing over him the song of God. That he wouldn't only hear my voice, but he would hear his Father's voice his whole life. And the other day, I heard him singing on the other side of the house. He was playing with his Legos. He didn't know I was there. And when he was singing, it sounded like me. And it just it captured me. I said, he sounds just like I do. So when we sing to the Father, I think he grabs Jesus and says, they sound just like us. Do you hear that? They sound just like us. We were made in the image of God. Our song captures his heart because he's been singing over us our entire life. And when we get into heaven, this world is like a womb. It's dark and it's shadowy and things don't make sense, you know. But when we're born into heaven, it's going to be like Cadence in that delivery room with me. We're going to look up into God's eyes and realize he was the love that was singing to us this whole journey. He was the one behind the scenes. He was the one speaking in the night. We're going to see him in his fullness. Cadence heard me for 9 months singing to him, you know. He heard his mother's voice. And then he came forth and saw us. And now he's growing up with us, becoming our friends. That's what heaven's going to be like. Yeah? And it's just, that's what worship is. Giving back to God what he first gave to us. I love that first moment when God reaches into dust and picks up a man, sculpts a man out of dirt, and gets down on his knees and kisses us. Think about that first moment. God breathes into us. What's Adam's first response? He breathes God back into the earth. Yeah, I mean, God giving you CPR, God blowing life into you. The first thing that Adam does is open his eyes and sees the face of God with nothing between it, and then blows God back into the earth. That is your destiny right there, to see his face and to blow him back out into the world. And that's what worship is. It's the place of breathing love in and breathing praise out. The Hebrew word for worship actually means to bow down and press your face against the dust. The Greek word, the New Testament word proskuneo, means to bow down. When we read the word worship, many times it means to bow low. Worship is the great returning to what we were made to be. Just think about it. We came from the dust. God reached down, came down to our level and picked up dirt, and then pulled us to his level and kissed us with life. Worship is us getting down on the dirt where we were made from. And he's waiting down there again, like he was in the garden, to kiss us with life again. Isn't that awesome? Worship is the romance God began in the garden. And it's that returning to his face. Our worship echoes into eternity. It's like that gladiator quote, what we do on this earth echoes into eternity. Have you ever thought about Mary's worship? Mary was the first worship leader of the new covenant. She tapped into it even before the covenant was even made. Kind of like David. Maybe David was the first worship leader of the new covenant. I don't know. These guys were revolutionaries. They were tapping into grace. They were tapping into it even before the cross. But I love the story of Mary in Matthew 26. It's Matthew 26, 6 through 13. I'll read it to you guys. While Jesus was in Bethany, in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume. In one of the other Gospels, it says the perfume was worth a year's wages. How much is a year's wages in Dubai? Average. 120,000 dirhams. That's just a guess. So this woman comes in with a bottle of perfume worth a year's wages, which she poured on his head while he was reclining at the table. The disciples saw this, and they said, "Why this waste? The perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing for me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." I would say that Mary's worship echoed, huh? we're still talking about it right now. 2,010 years later. I mean, we're not that far from where Mary did it. A couple 100 miles, I guess, from here. But people are talking about this 10,000 miles from here. They're talking about it all over the globe. They're still reading this story. And one bottle of perfume, that fragrance is still filling the earth. What you give to God on this earth echoes into eternity. Think about this. It says there's no tears in heaven, right? You guys read that in Revelation where it says God will wipe away every tear. So, we can give the Father tears here. And when we stand with him face to face, we can't give them to him there. Think of the value that tears have in heaven to him. No wonder he collects them and puts them in a bottle. Our worship resounds into eternity. When we get to see him face to face, worship at that point won't be a choice. It'll just be like, it'll be exploding out of every pore of who we are. But right now we have a choice to choose to engage him or not. Rick Joyner had this